So as you guys may know, that the DC Extended Universe is sort of the newest superhero universe that's been emerging onto the mainstream, with its competitors being the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which started back in 2008 when Iron Man was released. These longtime rivals have been going back and forth since the 1930s, seemed to be a bit of a battle that wasn't too often looked at, unlike what we see today. With the Marvel Cinematic Universe officially being a multi-billion-dollar company starting in 2009 with the Walt Disney Company acquiring Marvel, which includes raising the stock of both these companies and creating success for Marvel films, Marvel to this day continues that trend that is undeniably successful. With massive billion-dollar hits such as the original Avengers, Avengers Age of Ultron, and the newest Captain America Civil War, Disney and Marvel Studios seem to be on the partnership that cannot be defeated financially. Disney laughs all the way to the bank, letting everyone know about their box office numbers and marketing being heard around the world, daring anybody to stand up against them. But there is one brave little studio who has the guts and the balls to stand up against a tyrannical empire like Disney, and that is DC Entertainment, who at the time wasn't looking into starting their own superhero universe. Marvel movies like Ang Lee's Hulk, Fantastic Four's 1 and 2, and also Ghost Riders 1 and 2. DC films like Joel Schumacher's Batman's and the Green Lantern film haunted the DC company just like how Marvel did. From the 90s all the way to the 2000s, it seemed like both of these companies had no hope in bringing their heroes up on the big screen how comic book fans dreamed of having them come to fruition. But there was one man who decided, let's take the superhero genre, turn it into a dark, moody, and realistic tone, completely eliminating the comic book vibe. And that man was none other than Christopher Nolan. From his Dark Knight trilogy starting in 2005 with Batman Begins, DC was on the right path to success in rebuilding their company in merchandising, comic book sales, and a new look at the superhero genre that would forever be revolutionary for many DC films to come. At this point in 2008, The Dark Knight and Iron Man is going toe-to-toe in being the box office smash of the year. Now Marvel began to panic. They began to have office meetings in the deepest and darkest part of the Matterhorn, discussing how to once and for all conquer DC, refraining them in becoming box office kings and stealing their audience, ultimately hurting their sales. One man with absurd amounts of knowledge of the Marvel world and becoming president of Marvel Studios back in 2007, Kevin Feige, then comes up with a brilliant idea. Oh hey, let's take all the major superheroes of the Marvel universe, each having their own films, and years from now have them unite in one single film, crushing our fellow brethren forever. And unexpectedly, Marvel had their chips laid out even before Iron Man came out, surprisingly, and it was known to the audience at the end of the original Iron Man that there is potential of the Avengers coming together. With the ultimate deal between Disney and Marvel happening in 2009, where anything Marvel that isn't owned by Sony or 20th Century Fox, of course, would then become a product of Disney, all the way from toys, toothbrushes, and condoms. This was the beginning of a much more serious age. Now fast forward to the summertime of 2009, DC looks at Marvel wanting to start their own cinematic universe, but knowingly so, they can't do it with Christopher Nolan's Batman films because of the high demand of a sassier Alfred. But DC knows they can't start a standalone Alfred film just yet. Before they get to him, they must start with the Green Lantern, and in DC's eyes, no one else can play him like Ryan Reynolds. With Green Lantern almost finishing in production in hopes of starting their own cinematic universe, with Marvel still ahead of the game, Marvel sent out spies to infiltrate the DC company to make the film look like garbage. From the screenwriting, special effects, costume design, use of villain, Marvel placed their hands into DC's pawn and patiently waited for the onslaught to happen. Now it's 2011 with the official release of Green Lantern, receiving enormous amounts of negative reviews, including Roger Ebert saying, "It molested all 5 of my human senses, as I plan to never see this movie again, because if I did, I would burn any copy this pathetic world has." It wasn't until September of that year DC would cancel their planned universe and remain in the shadows, letting Marvel take all the glory. With Marvel's huge success of the Avengers, they would move on to their phase 2, starting with Iron Man 3 and then Thor: The Dark World, in which DC was starting over again, beginning with their most iconic hero of all time, Superman, the Man of Steel. With Marvel learning DC was attempting a rebooted Superman with the same tone as the Dark Knight trilogy, Marvel didn't want the success to happen in their competitors, and before the film was even in production, they then sent their #1 spy to once again bring DC films to ruin, and that man is visionary director Zack Snyder. The ultimate secret agent in disguise to make DC films look visually stunning, but with help of other rogue agents such as David S. Goyer secretly working for Marvel, they together would get the negative criticism they've always dreamed of for DC. Upon the release of Man of Steel, it didn't quite get the negative reaction Marvel was hoping for, as it was split by both the average moviegoers and the critics, as hope for the DC universe could come to fruition actually. That is, until Marvel decided to play their cards once more a couple months after Man of Steel was released, when Zack Snyder announced at the 2013 Comic-Con that Batman will be joining the Man of Steel sequel. Now, fans like myself erupted in applause and disbelief that this ultimate duo is finally coming to the big screen like we always hoped for, while Disney's plan won't be seen until 3 years from now. The battle of the two companies rages on, with Marvel releasing films like Captain America the Winter Soldier and Guardians of the Galaxy, thus receiving their best year for the films to date from both fans and critics. DC's working patiently and hard to bring their Man of Steel sequel featuring Batman to the big screen, but it wasn't until 2014 when the two companies released their biggest punch to each other's balls yet. Now, it was October 2014. DC releases their slate of films from 2016 all the way to 2020, exciting fans that this could be the move that will put them ahead of Marvel. Marvel, of course, didn't back down like a bitch, so they too dropped their slate of films reaching to 2020 and an Avengers Age of Ultron trailer. Knowing the war will never end, director Christopher Nolan, who had a part in writing Man of Steel and being an executive producer for Batman v Superman, made a pact that he will never get involved with DC films again. That is, until Marvel and Disney caught him, forcing him to tattoo a Captain America shield on his inner thigh, never showing his fans, but him knowing for the rest of his life that he was entangled in the Marvel onslaught, forever having that Marvel curse. With constant shit talk going on between Marvel and DC, including Jason Momoa saying "fuck Marvel" on his Twitter account, and Robert Downey Jr. going toe-to-toe with a DC agent, talking about how Marvel will soon fail, however, tweaking the audio to make it look like the interviewer was attacking him personally. That was when Marvel made their final move. They need to make sure that DC's universe cannot come true until the release of Batman v Superman in March 2016, when all the fans begin writing comments on how these major critics who bash the movie are paid by Marvel. But little did they know, they are actually right. A movie that is so similar to Marvel's Captain America Civil War on so many levels comparing to Batman v Superman, such as story, concept, costumes, you name it, gets better reception than a DC film. With the $850 million worldwide box office number, Marvel got at least one half of their plan down, which was having their agents do the same thing they did to Green Lantern back in 2011. However, with the premiere of Suicide Squad happening in New York of August 2016, rogue director David Ayer protesting against the tyrannical rule by yelling "fuck Marvel" seemed to be the best idea to get DC back on track.
Fuck Marvel!
But little did David Ayer know, the theater was filled with Marvel executives and paid critics, as most walked out already getting their full review intact, which that same night went all over social media bashing the film, saying not enough depth within the characters and there's no Martha scene. Suicide Squad is getting the same hate from critics as did Batman v Superman, but much worse. With reviews like Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and Suicide Squad, it seems as if DC can't get ahead of Marvel, because we all know Marvel is ahead of the game. They control the movie theaters, our wallets, just like how DC does, but their agents spreading across the world to make sure any property involved with DC will be put to shame. That is, until DC kills over and sells the rights back to Marvel. With the help of Jeff Johns, the ultimate underdog story will begin, as he went from comic book writer to DC entertainment president, in hopes of bringing Marvel down to their knees. So why am I talking about this conspiracy that not too many people look at as a threat that could affect our society? Well, it's because these two companies are controlling these United States and have one of each from their side running for president. Donald Trump is an agent for Marvel. Hillary Clinton is an agent for DC. Why do you think they keep going back and forth in their debates? Why do you think a movie from both Marvel and DC are a mere image of what could happen in this presidential election? It's only a matter of time before these two companies go from a Cold War to an actual World War III. So please, let us stop the madness, Marvel and DC.